So, my name is Daniel Miao, and my partner is Tyler Liu. And today we'll be presenting about Factorial, a data-driven comprehensive fact-checking and analysis system using artificial intelligence and big data analysis. So quick about us, my name is Daniel Miao. I am a sophomore at the Harker School in San Jose. And this will be my partner.
Tyler Liu, and I'm a junior at the Web Schools in Claremont.
So now onto the project itself. Before I describe our proposal, I'd first like to give a tiny bit of background to the problem we are trying to address. Over the past few decades, the loss of local print newspapers in favor of online mass media owned by large companies has led to the widespread monopolization and the monetization of news. In fact, a recent poll by the Pew Research Center found that 86% of Americans receive the majority of the information on the world around them through the internet. Along with the increasing polarization of America, this growing market has incentivized large news companies to appeal to, specific target, specific target audiences in order to maximize profits. And there's a lot of tactics to use, such as the subtle vilification of political rivals, the wordplay. There's sometimes even the blatant misrepresentation of facts and quotes, treating hypotheses as if they were facts, or even the omission of certain topics entirely. And even if one recognizes these fallacies, the consolidation of news by a small number of large companies has made it especially difficult. And that's why we started Factorial as a prototype of how technology, most notably artificial intelligence, can help us be more objective and skeptical in our political views. Now onto the extension itself. Factorial possesses many features which intend to help us achieve our aforementioned goal. First of all, through available public data sets, it checks news sites for their bias and credibility with metrics such as accuracy, breadth, corporate independence, and political independence, and more. Within a specific article, we can also use simple artificial intelligence models trained on relevant datasets to check both the title and text of an article separately. Notably, for each we checked clickbait, fake news, sentiment, readability, and political lean. But generalizations and overall trends aren't enough for us to differentiate between good and bad journalistic reporting. And for that, we use the specific marking of key phrases as a benchmark for language that usually shouldn't appear in a publication striving to be objective. Finally, and most importantly, we offer all of this in a lightweight package of a Chrome extension, which offers us three main benefits, which are availability, security, and familiarity. Beyond the general overview of the extension, I also want to quickly go over the general structure of the project. As I mentioned earlier, we have our extension, which handles the front end and UI portion of the project, as well as directly computing the algorithm metrics. For the AI-related metrics, however, we have to consult the server, which acts as the backend portion of the project and handles our function and sourcer models. Finally, we have a Firebase database, which acts as our authentication measures, and it allows us to keep track of our users and their data.
So now I'm going to come in and talk a little bit about how well our AI performs. With the training that we got from Kaggle, our AI can successfully detect over 90% of the fake news, over 80% of the biases, and even over 85% of the clickbait, which is overall, I think, pretty good. And here are some samples of the coding that we did. On the top left, we have the server initialization code. Bottom left, the helper function. The middle for the Firebase authentication. And on the right, we have the code behind recalling locally stored metrics.
Okay, so now for a quick live demo, just going to get off camera for a second. If we just go onto a news site such as CNN, go to the latest news, you can see that a couple things happen pretty quickly. We get two blobs here and another third blob over here. So first of all, I want to talk about the one in the bottom right. It is the source blob, and it gives the aforementioned metrics, as I mentioned in the features overview. For example, tells us the bias, how many people agree or disagree with the statement, its owner, region established, et cetera, and it gives a general score on the source itself. And in addition to that, it also tests for clickbait, fake news, politically related sentiment for both the title and the text of the article. As you can see, CNN unfortunately fails the clickbait test, but like it gets everything decent overall, so that's good. And we also check like readability, the number of words, and the estimated reading time to give people just a bit more information. And finally, if I can find one, yeah. We also have phrase marking, like in-text phrases. We can highlight them, and as you can see, when you hover over them, you get a bit more information. Now, right now, we only have one word, but if we just simply add something else, like, hang on, let's take democracies and autocracies and paste it here as well. And copy, paste, save, reload, and reload. You see it's highlighted as well, so it's actually very easy to add new key phrases and stuff like that. So it's very scalable. In addition, we can also test this on different news sites, like for example, Reuters, and you can see that everything works as well, and that it gives a different score to CNN because Reuters is generally a more reliable, trustworthy source. Yeah. Okay.
So now I'll be continuing with some challenges and limitations that we encountered during this project. Some of the challenges that we experienced was as follows. First, we had problems connecting to the server early in production, which we'd fix using more reliable hosting site. Then there were errors with the cores, meaning cross-origin scripting, from the extension to the backend, which we solved through locally stored files. Next, it was initially difficult to design and integrate a form of non-intrusive UI, but through some deliberation and brainstorming, we came up with the idea of having blobs of information in and around the article itself. And finally, it was hard to manipulate the DOM of the web page. However, we eventually got the hang of it with a bit of trial and error. And some of the limitations that we encountered was that there was like the resource limitation that exists within Google Chrome extensions. There's some issues with clutter and some different layouts within news sites, which did cause limitations because we can't go too far-fetched. And then there's also the performance limitations from deadlines.
Okay, now in its current state, this project is still a prototype, a proof of concept of sorts. So there is a lot of room for future improvements. Firstly, we want to, of course, improve both the accuracy and complexity of our models, as right now we are mostly simply using like baseline models such as logistic regression. And additionally, we would like to integrate compatibility with different websites. Right now, we are working on YouTube, and it's actually going pretty well. We're almost done. And we also like to do Reddit, perhaps Instagram and Facebook as well, as those are many of the news sites, social media sites people receive their information from. We would also like to add additional metrics on top of what we already have right now, as you saw earlier. And finally, we would like to create connected projects. For example, one such project would be a news sites, which aggregates the news from a range of political leanings, and with the help of large language models, GPTs perhaps, attempts to absorb the information presented within these varied articles and try to like rewrite them in a more concise and objective manner. And this would essentially solve one of the major problems that news sites have. It's that they don't report on some things that they don't like. For example, left-leaning article might not report on event that might be like more favorable in terms of right-leaning and vice versa. So yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. Any questions?